Hello, this is Steve, and once again, we're going to be sharing some words and some energies with those words around the book Attuned, not Attuned, by Thomas Hubel, Practicing Interdependence to Heal Our Trauma and Our World. And I just watched a video by his that was entitled Cultivating Wisdom. And I found it very useful. So Thomas was in the reading from yesterday, I think it was. Thomas was talking about the incarnation of the soul into the body and about the growth process that takes place. And he's talking about the child's identification with his parents and then his individuation, his attempt to experience himself or herself separate from the parent and to claim his autonomy. And you'll notice that Thomas goes back and forth with gender. So he'll talk about claiming his autonomy, and then for a section he'll talk about her experience. He just goes back and forth, which is interesting in that yesterday in the tarot reading we got the High Priestess, which is androgynous. So it's got male and female aspects to it. So to claim his autonomy, a young child eventually insists that he be allowed to brush his own teeth or get himself dressed without help. No, let me do it is the common refrain in the households of toddler-aged children. It's important that parents support these ventures into independence. When adults fail to get the switch from protection to autonomy, a child will naturally express anger and demand his space and freedom. After all, the soul must stay true to its own process of becoming. If the child is regularly or harshly punished for such expression, however, a split in the psyche may result between autonomy needs and attachment needs, between the will to become and the desire to preserve important bonds and to belong. A growing child will eventually need more space in the family system, broader territory, if you will, which can be difficult for some parents. The art of parenting is about knowing when support is needed versus when giving space without disconnection is needed. The right balance of these supports a child's natural development and nourishes their ability to relate with others. And he's got a picture drawn that's entitled the individuation loop. And underneath the picture it says individuation loop, the process by which energy gets encoded into structure. So talked about vertical and horizontal development, belonging and becoming. The individuation loop, and that's a difficult word for me to say, individuation, loop of development emerges through both a vertical axis and a horizontal axis. Imagine a subtle thread being pulled by a needle up and up through the crown of your head. The thread itself is a stream of light, energy, and information that runs along the spine, connecting you vertically down and through your parents' genetic lineages, branching and flowing down and down and down through the roots of countless generations. The roots of this thread continue down into the genetic lineage of our earliest natural ancestors, down through the primates, mammals, vertebrates, and multicelled creatures. The thread roots even further back through the earliest single-celled life forms and back down into the body of the Earth itself. It reaches all the way back through the planet's earliest constituent salts and minerals, back to the arrival of water, back to carbon, and deeper into the birth and death of stars to the dawn of the universe itself. Our children, if we have them, appear ahead of us in that vertical line. They are the fulfillment of an ancient evolutionary desire to become and to belong and to become again anew. In that way, children embody the tip of an evolutionary impulse which arises from us and seeks out the edge space of future light, pointing toward our evolutionary potential. Perpendicular to the vertical axis is the horizontal thread, whose needle moves from us out and in a process of ever greater enfoldment, weaving our individual lives into the fabric of the communal, societal, global, and cosmic tapestry. When a child first enters school, for example, there is a formation process for developing a sense of safety and belonging beyond that provided by the family. Once that new container is established, the child can feel herself as part of the school community. Now she experiences belonging at home, among family, and at school. In a wonderful way, her parents form the safety net from which she learns to branch out safely. If she faces difficulty in the school or community, her parents ideally provide protection, comfort, and security so that she can integrate her experiences and bravely venture out again. Each of us has an inborn desire to belong in the wider world, just as every cell in the body belongs to the body. As a child grows into an adult, he seeks safety and belonging, first with his parents, then with other family and caregivers, then with his school and community, and so on. Belonging is affinity, connection, mutuality, kinship, communion. Wherever we find belonging, we can become. We can grow and evolve and express more of our creative, emergent nature. Belonging is a function of horizontal development. Becoming is a function of vertical growth. Both unfold naturally as extensions of the healthy individuation loop. And he again has a picture that you can pause if you want to just look at it. I'll see if I can hold it straight and still. Maybe I can even get it closer. Okay. And underneath it, it says, well, above it, it says the inner, I think, lining of the world. And it says, as a child grows, attends school, and joins with community, ever larger spheres of social belonging are created. The neurobiology of relation. And I'm going to see if I can do something, put the I can see where that's going to be a little tricky, but we'll just go. When we look at the mystical individuation loop through the lens of contemporary science, we find a startling symmetry. The branches and roots of the central and peripheral nerve systems regulate the body's life functions and allow us to sense, perceive, and respond to the world. And therefore to grow. But the nervous system also serves as the central mediator for connection, relation, and belonging. Within it, the vertical and horizontal axis meet. The body's vagus nerve. So I just think that there's a lot of thought being given to the vagus nerve in its relationship to fight and flight and in its relationship to consciousness. So there was a video that I watched by a yoga instructor that had to do with 3 exercises for kind of balancing the vagus nerve function to bring it out of its fight or flight and go into its more rest state. And he's talking about how people who have difficulty sleeping at night, people who have difficulty letting go and relaxing as they go into the sleep world, can benefit by doing these 3 exercises. And at some point I might post them, but one of them was by just making sounds out of this part of the throat. That has a tendency to relax the function of the vagus nerve, bring it into more of a meditative, relaxed state as opposed to a fight or flight state. And then also grabbing hold of the ear and moving it around in a circle, like I think it was 5 times one way, 5 times the other way, 5 times one way, and you repeat that like 5 times or something. And then there was a third one, which I can't recall right at this moment. Anyway, he's going to talk about the body's vagus nerve, which seems to be really up right now in terms of my awareness. The body's vagus nerve, the longest and most complex cranial nerve, runs from the brainstem to the colon. This powerful neural highway transmits critical information between the brain and body, mediating vital sensory, motor, and parasympathetic functions so that the heart, lungs, throat, and gut can function. But it does a great deal more. Vagus is derived from the Latin for wanderer, and true to name, this wandering star of the nerve system plays a vital role in social connection. We all know about the nerve system's primary survival responses deployed instantaneously when we experience high stress. Or a life-threatening encounter. These are, of course, the sympathetic fight, flight, or freeze response and the parasympathetic freeze or faint response. The freeze response is a combination of sympathetic and parasympathetic activation. But in 1994, American neuroscientist Stephen Porges, PhD, director of the Kinsey Institute's Trauma Research Center, proposed the polyvagal theory, an illuminating model of the nerve system premised on a startling interaction between these elegant and primitive survival responses and human social behavior. I'm just going to put this up just a bit. Indeed, Porges identified a separate survival response and human social behavior, identified a separate survival response belonging to the nervous system but directly linked to the social environment. He coined this mechanism the social engagement system, or SES. Under ordinary conditions, we tend to feel soothed and assured when met with eye contact and a kind smile. We experience pleasure when singing, kissing, and nursing a baby. These and other social behaviors help us feel a sense of safety, security, bonding, and belonging, all of which we need to truly thrive. What is interesting is that our brains and nerve systems become hardwired to detect and decipher even the faintest, nearly imperceptible shifts in our social atmosphere. We learn to read the changing currents in other people's facial expressions and micro expressions, in vocal tone and speech intonation, and in body posture, movement, and more. And we use this social mechanism to almost instantly assess whether our environment is safe and affirming or somehow poses a threat. As a first-time or many-time passenger on an airplane, for example, you might feel a little anxiety. When the plane hits difficult turbulence, that anxiety instantly spikes. Now you feel fear. The first thing you will likely do, automatically, without thinking about it, is to look to your neighbors and nearby passengers. Just a quick glance amongst strangers can convey a feeling of, we're in this together, and that helps reestablish calm. Shared emotion, an exchanged smile, a mutual laugh, or exasperation or relief, any or all of these belong to tend and befriend behaviors. Tend and befriend behaviors. Expressing the natural instinct of humans to affiliate in times of stress, affiliation helps us feel calmer, safer, better. At base, Porges' theory reveals the crucial role that social connection plays in our ability to withstand stress and recover from adversity, even trauma. Indeed, one's ability to reliably interpret the subtle language of the social atmosphere correlates with increased resilience, health, well-being, and positive bonds in relationship. For most, the social engagement system is coded and framed into the nerve system from the moment of our earliest interactions and continues to strengthen as we develop and grow. This, too, is a looping dance of energy into structure or intelligence into body, and when this co-regulation process is somehow impeded or stunted, we suffer. We are less able to self-regulate, less able to feel safety or belonging. This can occur as a consequence of early relational wounds, such as we see in developmental or attachment trauma, where the bonds of connection between parent and child are harmed by neglect, abandonment, or abuse, including the inadvertent presence of the parent's own unresolved trauma. When a caregiver is unable to regulate his or her moods, emotions, and energies, the child may experience feelings of terror, anxiety, and uncertainty with nowhere to turn for reassurance. As a result, the SES cannot establish itself properly in the home or the wider world. And the SES, again, is the social engagement system. And finally, the last paragraph, when the nerve system does not properly grow and flourish, the energy of the soul does not fully or clearly embody. Instead, it disconnects in some way from the body, dissociates from the emotions, and expresses mental or psychological fragmentation. In this state, the energy of the soul is unable to establish and ground a coherent self-sense or other sense. When the body, emotions, and minds are dissonant and incoherent, the rhythm of energy into substance is out of step. To better understand how and why this happens, we must take a closer look at the phenomenon of trauma. And the next part of this chapter is going to be real time versus trauma time. And we'll probably be reading that tomorrow, or possibly later tonight and posting it tomorrow. But that seems to be plenty for us to take in and learn from. So with that, I'll say goodbye and now must go.